Marhaba to all of you who are watching this brief program on service management lasting half an hour. It is my pleasure and my privilege to be here, and I would like to start with giving the Tadra Virtual Academy a huge vote of thanks for inviting me here once again. For all of you who have been clued on to this series, you will know that this is the fourth program coming after delivery management, product management, and program management. It will be a great idea for all of you to revisit those earlier programs to have a sequential and linear understanding of what we are doing. There will definitely be some program overlaps and some topical overlaps, although not so much in this one. We look forward to having your comments, your questions, and your doubts in the comment section, and be rest assured that they will be answered. We have the simple request of keeping all the comments in the comment section, respectful to all audiences and to the presenters. With that, I would also like to first give a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Smita Gaurav, and I'm a coach, consultant, and a trainer to government, semi-government, and private organizations. In the learning and the development field, I have been over about 18 years and about 12 years in the city of Dubai. I'm also the owner of a social business, and I'm very happy to be here presenting to you all over again. Great to be here once again. Let us now first, before starting the program, understand what exactly it is that we are going to be deep diving into. And when we talk about service management, let us start talking about what exactly we mean by service management. And then we will, of course, discuss why the service management as an industry is so fast taking importance, and it is soon becoming a business imperative in very many organizations. We will discuss the frameworks of service management, and then we will discuss the dimensions of service management. We will be very briefly touching on customer journey because, as you know, there's so many other topics which are also crowding us out. We will be definitely touching upon customer journey, and then we will be talking in a little more detail about the service value system. So welcome to all of you once again. Let us first understand what exactly is service management. A few things stand out about service management, and that can probably comprise a definition, but not entirely so. So when we talk about service management, we talk about starting and having a firm focus upon the customer to be able to understand the customer's client's need completely, and so that we can use that information to create an attractive range and portfolio of services that of our value and that can be bought and sold by the clients or the customers. This is, of course, a very, very brief definition of service management. Let us understand this and elucidate this with a small example, or with the help of a small example. We all are buying a product sometime or the other in our lives. So if we understand from that perspective, whether, let us suppose, if you are installing a water filter in your home, that's a product, right? And oftentimes that product will be going hand in hand with a whole retinue of services. Those services could be installation services, taking care of its maintenance, etc. This range of services oftentimes has us interacting with the customer in very many ways, and we gain more and more, and as we gain more and more traction with the customer, we have better services and better products that come through service requests and feedback. So every single customer that we have a touch base with or we have a touch point with, and the amount of repeat tractions or interactions or dialogues that we have with the customer leads us to a better understanding of what the other pain points of the customer are and how the customer would like to be serviced better, which then becomes a part of a continual improvement program. This by far is probably the biggest and the most cogent reasons or arguments for service management, because it provides enhanced continual services over and over again, not just for the product but also for the services. So service management, what it is and why is it important, is what we have discussed as of right now. What we understood was that service management is totally client and customer focused, and we try to understand the customer and the client requirements so as to be creating a portfolio of services that can be of value and use and be bought and sold by the end customer. As service management requires us to have repeat interactions with the customers and increasing dialogues and interactions, that gives us a service request or a feedback loop into better services and products that creates a loop for a continual improvement in the services and the products. So, this is what service management in brief is, and this is what the importance of service management is. So now we understood also that service management, as we start gaining more and more interaction with the customers, it also helps the organization in question by creating more and more competitive, innovative products that have a competitive edge over other organizations. So, the more effective and efficient our feedback loop from the customer is, the more the frequency is maintained, the better products evolve through that process and through that interaction. This dialogue with the customer also helps us to keep a pulse over the client and the other stakeholders and to have an integrated understanding of how we can create value for all of those people who are involved, whether they are customers, stakeholders, organizations, or other service vendors. This in time creates a very, very loyal base of customers, which is vitally important for organizations if they want to have the complete customer lifecycle mapped. So now we understood that this is important also from the organizational perspective to be able to create innovative products with a unique competitive edge. And this dialogue, traction, and interaction with the customers helps us to have a pulse over the client thoughts process, their pain points and their requirements as they are evolving. And then it helps us to have a loyal base. Let us now understand what are the roles of a service manager. So, when we talk about a service manager, not only will we be discussing briefly the role of a service manager, but we will also be discussing the competencies, technical and non technical. So, anybody who has gone through a competency assessment will know that a competency basically requires us to put together an understanding of the skills, values, knowledge, intentions, all of it put together. So, the role of a service manager is basically to oversee and guide the service team, to coordinate service level agreements, to maintain customer relationships, and to have a continual feedback from the customer relationship being brought back into the product and the service improvement process, to monitor client complaints because that is where the window of opportunity happens, and to develop service improvements. Other than this, the non-technical role or the non-technical competencies of a service manager would require us to have a strategic thinking, pardon me, and prioritization of time and allocation of time and resources according to the strategic thinking or the analysis. It also helps them to have a business analysis and business relationships. They're also required to have managing of risk ability and to be able to delegate work to the team as required. The role of a service manager is also to understand the service level management and to have service engineering understanding and to have a broad technical understanding of all the work that is being done. So now very briefly we have understood in the last 4 or 5 slides as to what exactly service management is, why is it important to us, and what is the role of a service manager. Let us now understand what service management frameworks are. So to understand and to give structure to the service management, there have been various different frameworks that have been used. But most importantly, the framework that is now currently being used is the ITIL, which we will be discussing a little later in a little more depth. A little about ITIL is this: it's established in 1980 by the UK government, and it is by far the most popular and the most widely adopted framework for service management. This ITIL has gone through several updations and it focuses predominantly on IT. But having said that, there are other frameworks which are also available, which are COBIT, Verism, CMMI SVC, and the SIAM or the SIAM model. All of these models have similar roots and pretty much overlapping elements and common principles. But ITIL is the one that we are most finding in usage in modern day organizations and corporate houses. Let us understand a little more about the service value system of the ITIL. So, if you look at the model of the service value system, it has a couple of components. It has first the guiding principles. The guiding principles guide in organizations in all circumstances. Then we have the governance, refers to the means by which an organization is directed and controlled. Then, further than that, when we go down, we find the service value chain. It's a set of interconnected activities that an organization performs to deliver a valuable product or a service. Practices are a set of organizational resources designed for performing work. And continual improvement is recurring organizational activity performed at all levels. Thereafter, we also have opportunity and demand and a value, and that we will be discussing in one slide later. To understand the service value system, we will first talk about the service value system. The ITIL service value system describes how all the components and activities of the organization work together as a system to enable value creation. Each organization's SVS has interface with other organizations that helps to create an ecosystem and also helps to create value for the stakeholders, customers, and organizations per se. So this is the model of the ITIL service value system, which talks about how all the components and the activities of the organizations are working together to enable a value creation. These components and value and activities can be configured in multiple different ways and in different combinations, hence maintaining a flexibility and agility. And this further requires the coordination of all the other activities and practices to be effective. Meaning to say simply that none of these functionings and activities will be effective or efficient if everybody is not working in cohesion and with topmost efficiency. It also means that it's a non-rigid, agile, flexible framework that is open to various multiple combinations to be able to create the right value. We also see the two ends of opportunity and demand and value. So the opportunities represent the possibilities of adding value to stakeholder or improving the organization, whereas demand is the need or the desire for products and services. All of these put together create the right value for the stakeholders, the clients, and the customers, and the end users, and the organizations as well. Let us now talk about how SVS system is also highly effective for organizational silos. So if any of you who are working with teams which are not collaborating with each other, or with teams which are not adequately interdependent but insist upon functioning on their own, thereby creating inefficient outcomes and processes, you will know what a silo is. Very many organizations do not have teams that have intra-team and inter-team interdependence, and they often function like standalone islands, or as we see over there, as it is called, silos. These silos are not good news for any organization as they block the communication and collaboration. It reduces the efficiency and effectiveness of all outcomes and the process of value creation and increases the cost. It also blocks any kind of knowledge transfer, and then people around us have low access to expertise or specialization. They're also very insular, which means that they do not open up to change and are resistant to change in very many ways and do not accept changes coming into the department or the teams easily. This also means that people around them have hidden agenda or ego protection that leads to poor decision making and hence poor outcomes. It means low agility and low flexibility, which also means that organizations are not competitive. These organizations are also low on spotting and taking advantage of opportunity, and therefore they're not as competitive as one would like them to be. So any new opportunity is often lost in the conflict that the teams are facing with each other, or the lack of interdependence or the collaboration and communication that the team is able to share or not. Let us now understand what do we mean by customer journey. To any service management, the customer journey map is vitally important. Let us suppose when you have taken a flight and gone to some other city and you see a hoarding for a product right outside the airport, and then you have another client, you have a customer calling, or you have a WhatsApp or a push message that comes to you for a particular product, and then you have a customer service representative who's calling you for a particular product. All of these are your touch points, right? So, but the customer journey, what it does is right from the time when a customer is feeling a conscious or an unconscious pain, they start identifying those triggers for those conscious and unconscious pain points, to identifying what the client or the customer objective can be, and then address the client activities. To this end, they establish various touch points that can help us have an understanding about the customer's requirements. And the more the touch points, of course, the better is the understanding of what can work for the customer and how the customer wants to be reached. These are then culled into desired outcomes, and incentives and nudges are given to be able to establish supporting services or enhancement of existing services. This whole customer journey maps the customer's first interaction with you as a concept, idea, product, to the end point when they are using the services or the products and having enhancement made through feedback loops and service requests. This is a very, very brief understanding of the customer journey. But this customer journey is vital to service management and how we understand that an effective service management cycle can be made. This brings us to the service life cycle. So the service life cycle has got 5 components to it. We have the service strategy, service design, service implementation, service operation, and service improvement. But before we go into that, we will have a quick recap about what we have done so far. We started with what exactly is service management and why is it important to us. Then we discussed how the roles, competencies, technical and non-technical competencies of service managers work. We discussed the different frameworks, which is the ITIL, the SIAM or the Verism, etc., the COBIT, etc. frameworks, and how they have overlapping themes, but the most likely which is used is, of course, the ITIL. We discussed what the service value system means and what are the different components of the service value system, which is governance, value creation, opportunities and demand and value, etc. And we discussed how these 4 are always working in an agile, flexible manner to be able to create maximum value for the customers and to be able to interact with the other organizations' SVS to create a healthy ecosystem. We also discussed how the SVS system is vitally important to be able to break down the silo system. Any silo system is effectively broken down by the SVS because the SVS completely disables any kind of functioning in isolation. It helps different departments work with each other, different elements and components and activities to be coordinated and work in an integrated manner. So the SVS system is highly effective into creating an agile framework which is open to changes and can have multiple combinations. It also helps us to sidestep any of the problems that are created by the silos of organizations which are rooted in not being able to change or resistance. And then now we understood that the customer journey is a tool which is used to be able to understand the customer interactions and how the customer interactions can then be used to further develop and to have a continual improvement over existing services and products. This then brings us to the service life cycle and to the improvement of the service life cycle. So the service life cycle is a concept which insists upon working with the service throughout and across the cycle of the product or the service to ensure continual improvement. As we said before, we have service strategy, service design, service implementation and service operations, and service improvement. We will understand each of these components little by little in the next couple of slides. So when we talk about strategy, we talk about assessing the current service offerings and to define a long-term strategy. Okay. Then we talk about the design aspect of it. When we talk about the design aspect of it, we talk about defining expected service outcomes and to develop an approach for service implementation. Then we talk about the implementation aspect of it, the implementation of services, how it happens, and the acquiring, developing, and testing of all required service components. Then we talk about the service lifecycle operations, where handling of issues and service requests happen along with performance of routine tasks. And then finally, we have the improvement aspect of it, which is the handling of issues and service requests and routine tasks plus monitoring of quality. So the improvement aspect will also include the earlier aspect of routine tasks, but also give a plus one of monitoring of quality in that zone. Let us now understand about service management and the four dimensions of service management. So we have the framework of political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, legal factors, and environmental factors, right? This we will be discussing in the last slide. But within these existing frameworks, we have these four elements that actually work together to be able to create products and services and values. So we have the first, which is organization and people. Secondly, we have information and technology. Thirdly, we have partners and suppliers. And lastly, we have value streams and processes. We will discuss all of these very briefly and very quickly in the next couple of slides. So when we talk about the service management four dimensions, the first dimension that we're talking about is organization and people. And when we talk about the organization and people, what we basically mean is roles and responsibilities, formal organizational structure, culture, and staffing and competencies. These four, very briefly put together, create the organization part of the service management dimension number one. When we talk about people, we have to understand that the people are only as good when they are able to understand the management and the leadership styles. Pardon me. They're also better when they are able to communicate and collaborate openly so as to enable the SVS to work. We had discussed the silo and the SVS. These are only good as the people are. Next, they have to have a continuous updation of skills and competencies to be able to bring in specialized knowledge and understanding to the work that they're doing. There has to be an interface between specializations and roles, and there have to be levels of collaboration and coordination they have to enable with each other. They also have to have a broad knowledge and deep specialization of the work that they're doing. So this is what we talk about, the organizational part of it and the people part of it, which comes under quadrant number one. Next, we talk about information and technology. When we talk about information and technology, we are discussing the three quadrants of information and knowledge, technology, and relationship between the service value systems that we have discussed before. When we talk about information and technology, we talk about what workflow managements have to be used, what knowledge bases have to be used, what communication systems have to be implemented, what analytical tools can be adopted, what inventory systems can be done, what remote collaborations need to be done, how can we use AI and artificial intelligence, how can mobile platforms be useful, how can cloud solutions and machine learnings work. Over and above this, we also need to understand how database applications work, how blockchains and communication systems will interact with each other, how cloud computing, artificial intelligence, mobile applications, and cloud computing and cognitive computing work. These are all the various dimensions that information and technology will be looking at. But before doing all of these things, the organizations have to take a rain check into what they are doing and do a some sort of a five why as to why they are adopting these informations and technologies, and certain questions have to be asked, and these questions can look something like so, like, is it compatible with the current architecture? Does it raise any regulatory compliance or information security or control issues? Will it be continuing to be viable in the foreseeable future? Does it align with the service provider or service consumer strategy? Does the organization have the right skills to support and maintain it? Does it have the sufficient automation capabilities to be developed, deployed, and operated? Does it have additional capabilities that can be leveraged for other products or services? Does it introduce new risks or constraints to the organization? These are imperative questions that need to be asked before any information technology is adopted or considered at all. Service management, the third dimension of it, is partnerships and suppliers. Very briefly, we have buyers and suppliers in the service management, which ensure the supply of goods and services, and that can create effective service partnerships over a long period of time. To be able, now any particular organization will need more than one supplier and a couple of other organizations which also cater to their requirements. For these requirements to be effectively carried out, an organization can use the service integration and management method to address partners and suppliers dimension. Therefore, service integration becomes a vital aspect of service management dimension number 3, which is partnership. Excuse me. Finally, we have value streams and processes. So, what exactly are value streams and processes? They define the activities, control, and procedures to achieve targets. It is concerned with the various parts of organization working in an integrated and coordinated way to enable value creation through products and services. Let us now understand a little more about service management in values and processes. What activities does the organization take up? These are the questions that the values and processes have to be asking each other. How are these activities organized? How value creation is ensured to all stakeholders and effectively and efficiently? And therefore, a value stream is a series of steps in an organization that undertakes to create and deliver products and services to consumers. It combines the organization's value chain activities. Therefore, the value chain activity ideally should be doing some adding activities, or they have to be discarded if they're not adding value and have to be treated as a wasteful activity. So, what are the benefits of value streams? So, the value stream provides a clear picture of what an organization delivers and how to make continual improvements to its services. An organization can map their work with the identified value stream map to analyze the current state and identify barriers and non value adding activities. Opportunities to increase value adding activities can be found across the value chain. And value stream optimization includes process automation or adoption of emerging technologies to gain efficiencies or enhance user experience. Value streams can be redefined to react to changing demands or remain stable for a significant amount of time. Let us now understand a little more about processes. So, processes is a set of interrelated activities that transform inputs into outputs, and processes define the sequence of activities and their dependencies. So, this is a brief understanding of what value streams and processes are like. Before we go on to the next slide, we will do a quick recap of what we have done so far in the four dimensions of service management. So, within the framework of social, political, legal, economic, etc., we have the four elements of organizations and people, value streams and processes, information and technology, and partnerships that interact with each other to be able to create the right value through the right product and services. We discussed as to what are the various elements of organization and people. We also discussed what are the various elements of information and technology, what are the caveats before using any adoption of technology, and what are the different aspects of technology. We also discussed what exactly are partnerships and partnerships all about, and then we discussed how value streams or processes are different from each other and how they help us in creating a streamlined way to understand how value can be created and products can be enhanced further still. Finally, we also need to understand this, that an organization should answer the following questions to successfully create, deliver, and improve a service. So, some of the questions that we can ask is, what are the generic delivery models for service and how does the service work? Excuse me. What are the value streams involved in delivering the great outputs of service? And who performs the required service actions? Finally, we need to understand that all of this can only work the best when we have the PESTEL uh, analysis which has been done. So, what is the PESTEL? We had discussed earlier the political, economic, social, technology, and legal and environmental, wherein political refers to the stability of government, potential changes to legislation and global influences. Economic refers to economic growth, employment, rates, monetary policy, and consumer confidence. We talked about the social, which is income distribution, demographic influence, lifestyle factors. We talked about technology, which is international influences, changes in information, technology, and take up rates. We discussed legal, taxation policies, employments, laws, industrial regulations, and health and safety. And finally, we discussed the environment, which is regulations and restrictions, attitudes of customers. This brings us to the end of the program today. I do hope that you've had some good learning takeaways. Please do not forget to look at the other programs for a better understanding of this series. I hope to see you all once again, and a big vote of thanks to Tadra once again for inviting me. Thank you.